I should have known something was off the moment I woke up that morning. The silence outside wasn't just peaceful, it was unnatural. Normally, my street had a steady rhythm. Birds chirping, distant chatter, the occasional car passing by. But today, nothing. Not a single sound. Grabbing my coffee, I stepped onto the porch, and that's when I saw it. A bright orange tow truck, parked like it owned my driveway. Standing beside, it were two men in identical beige polo shirts and slacks, the kind of uniform that screamed self-important HOA patrol. They even had plastic badges clipped to their belts, like they were pretending to be real officers. At first, I thought they had the wrong address. Maybe they were here for a neighbor's car. But then I noticed one of them, a tall, wiry guy with a clipboard, scribbling something down while the other, a stocky guy with a walkie-talkie, was setting up a winch. And the car they were targeting? My car. My spotless, fully registered, legally parked car. In my own driveway. I watched, arms crossed, as they prepped like they were on some high-stakes repo mission. Clipboard guy, let's call him Dennis, was muttering under his breath while walkie-talkie man, we'll go with Marty, nodded along like he was getting tactical orders from HQ. It would have been hilarious if it weren't so absurd. They were about to hook the tow cable to my axle when I decided to speak. Morning, I said, keeping my tone light, as if I wasn't watching two clueless amateurs try to steal my vehicle. Dennis flinched, clearly not expecting me to be there, but he quickly recovered, straightening up. This is an official HOA-sanctioned removal, he announced, as if he'd been practicing that line in front of a mirror. Your vehicle is in violation of community parking guidelines. I raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? And which rule is that exactly? Marty, still fiddling with the hook, muttered something, but Dennis was already flipping through his clipboard. He jabbed a finger at a barely legible paragraph of fine print. Per Section 14, Clause 7, no vehicle may remain stationary in a visible residential area for more than 48 hours without being moved a significant distance. I blinked. You're telling me you're towing my car because it's been parked in my driveway for 2 days? Dennis nodded solemnly, like he was reading from the Declaration of Independence. That's when I realized they had absolutely no clue who I was. They didn't know they were trying to tow a car belonging to Ryan Holt, the city's chief of police. And that made this even more fun. I decided to play along. What's the fine for this serious offense? I asked, struggling to hide my amusement. Marty finally looked up from his pointless adjustments. $150, he said proudly. I let out a short laugh. So let me get this straight. You're about to tow a $90,000 car over a $150 fine. Dennis hesitated for half a second, as if some tiny part of his brain realized how stupid this sounded. But then, like a true bureaucrat, he squared his shoulders. Rules must be enforced, he declared. Of course, I said, nodding. The sacred HOA rules. By now, the neighbors had started gathering. Mrs. Dawson from next door stood by her mailbox, phone raised, recording everything. The Millers, an elderly couple out on their morning walk, whispered to each other while their tiny terrier sat at their feet, ears perked up like he knew a disaster was unfolding. And yet, Dennis and Marty carried on. They actually started the tow truck engine. They were really going to do it. I sighed and pulled out my phone. One quick dial, and a familiar voice answered. Diaz, the voice on the other end said. Sergeant, I need a patrol unit at my house, I said. I believe someone is attempting to steal my vehicle. A pause. Then Diaz's tone shifted. On our way, Chief. I hung up and looked at Dennis and Marty. Gentlemen, I said, before this goes any further, you should know something. I'm Ryan Holt, Chief of Police. And in about 3 minutes, a squad car will be here. We'll see who's violating the law then. Dennis went pale. His clipboard slipped from his fingers. Marty's hand jerked away from the tow hook like it had burned him. They exchanged frantic glances, whispering in hushed voices. Dennis made a quick throat-slash gesture to the tow truck driver, who instantly killed the engine. But Marty, bless his heart, wasn't ready to give up. We can't let him intimidate the HOA, he huffed, puffing out his chest like a soldier about to charge into battle. I stared at him. Are you serious right now? A ripple of laughter spread through the small crowd. At least 3 people were openly filming. This was going to be the HOA's greatest PR disaster. And then, right on cue, we heard it, the siren. A cruiser pulled up in front of my house, and outstepped Officers Diaz and Monroe, looking as casual as if they'd just arrived at a cookout. Diaz took one look at the scene and smirked. Someone want to explain why there's a tow truck trying to remove the chief of police's personal vehicle from his own driveway? Dennis stammered, frantically flipping through his clipboard like a spellbook that might magically save him. Marty froze completely. I'm waiting, Diaz said, arms crossed. Under HOA regulations, Dennis started. Diaz held up a hand. Are you law enforcement? Silence. Do you have a court order for vehicle removal? More silence. Diaz pulled out his own notepad. Because unauthorized vehicle removal without legal cause is considered attempted theft under city ordinance. Dennis and Marty looked like they might faint. And then, just as things couldn't get worse for them, we all heard a sharp voice. What is going on here? Striding toward us, clipboard clutched like a weapon, was Linda Markham, HOA president and self-proclaimed ruler of the neighborhood. She stormed up, face red with fury. Why is there a police car here? She snapped. I smiled. Morning, Linda. She narrowed her eyes. What did you do? Oh, nothing much, I said. Just called the cops when 2 of your guys tried to steal my car. Steal? Linda scoffed. That's standard HOA procedure. Diaz raised an eyebrow. So you authorized this? Linda hesitated. Well, the HOA has authority over community regulations. You don't have authority to tow cars from private property without due process, Diaz countered. Silence. Linda flipped through her clipboard, her lips pressing into a thin line. Do you have proof this vehicle hasn't moved in 48 hours? She asked. Do you? I shot back. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. Nothing. Do you even know whose car this is? I pressed. Her expression darkened. Obviously yours. And do you know who I am? That was the moment realization hit her like a freight train. Diaz finished the thought for her. He's the chief of police, Linda. Linda's face turned a ghostly shade of gray. What you authorized, Diaz continued, could be considered an abuse of power. Linda gulped. I think we can settle this reasonably. I smiled. Of course. Cancel the fine. Send an apology to the entire neighborhood explaining your mistake. Her jaw tightened. Fine, she muttered. The neighbors cheered. Linda, humiliated, ordered Dennis and Marty to unhook my car immediately. But I had a feeling this wasn't over yet. As Dennis and Marty scrambled to unhook my car, Linda stood there, arms crossed, her pride clearly wounded. The neighborhood was watching, phones still recording, whispers turning into chuckles. This was the kind of HOA blunder that would live on in community gossip for years. Diaz gave me a knowing look before turning back to Linda. Might want to review those bylaws. Linda, seems like your authority has limits. She didn't respond, just huffed, turned on her heel, and stormed off. I took a slow sip of my now cold coffee, watching the tow truck pull away. Well, I said to no one in particular. That was entertaining. Mrs. Dawson grinned. Better than reality TV. As the crowd dispersed, I glanced at my car, still sitting exactly where it belonged. Lesson of the day? Some people love power until they realize they don't actually have any.